Shop limited time deals on last minute gifts now at Lowe's. Save $50 on a Werner 6-foot aluminum stepladder. Was $89, now just $39. Plus, get your choice of select Craftsman V20 tools for only $39. And save time and money with free shipping on orders of $45 or more. Because Lowe's knows deals. Offers valid 12/5 through 12/11. While supplies last. Selection varies by location. Free standard shipping not available in Alaska and Hawaii.
Welcome to Meeting Malcolmus, a pavement podcast. Hey, it's JD here, back again for another week of wandering through the wilderness that is the discography of seminal indie rock band Pavement, looking for a way in, a way out, any which way, really, we could use to find out how this band, this magnificent group of bastards, were able to slip through our fingers in the 90s. And who knows, maybe someday I'll get a chance to meet Malcolmus. So there's that. This week has been another strange week. We celebrated the rising Christ, the dying and rising of Christ, I suppose, in isolation over a spring dinner. And it was strange sitting around my table. It's the first Easter without my mother around. And in a way, it almost made things easier because it was just me and my little family sitting around the table rather than my extended family, who I miss dearly. But her absence wasn't quite as magnified. So there's that. COVID continues to tear a strip off us. I recoil at the idea of being beaten by a portmanteau. It's a struggle, but we got to live with it. I thought I might read an email this week before we get into the subject du jour, which is grounded, which is just a wonderful song. I don't know what more can be said, but trust me, there's a lot more that's going to be said because we've got a special guest joining us after the show, a pair of special guests, podcasters. We've been trying to get them on the show for a little while, and we were successful finally today in making that happen. So that's good. That's really good. And I'm happy about that. We're going to be talking about the wonder that is Grounded. And I don't know if I don't know how to quantify that it's one of my top 5 Pavement songs. I'm sure it's one of yours, in the top 5. If it's not, shoot me an email, jd@meetingmalcolmus.com. Let me know. What is in your top 5? Do you have one? Does it change every day? It's sort of a weird proposition, isn't it? Anyway, on to the email. This one comes to us from Patrick. He says, "Hey man, I really enjoy what you do. Just listen to the Gold Sounds episode. It's without a doubt my go-to song when I've had a couple beer and start thinking about all the things I did wrong with a past girlfriend. I felt that shit in my soul. Thank you for what you do." Patrick, I hear you, brother. This is the kind of song that does that to you. It's built of nostalgia and wax, like some sort of popsicle birdhouse. I don't know. It gets to me too. I really appreciate you listening to the show, though. Thanks. Kim writes, "Hi JD, thanks for all the hard work you're putting in to bring us Pavement fans this fun podcast. I've been a fan of the band since the beginning of my sophomore year in college way back in 92 and fondly look back on those days when I was referred to as that pavement girl. I don't have a clue how I actually discovered the band, and maybe friends, being a DJ at my college radio station, saw it in a record store uptown, who knows. But somehow they entered my consciousness, formed the soundtrack to my college and young adult life, and let's get real, they haven't left ever since. Obviously, one listened to Steve's voice and I was hooked. Sadly, once I left college, this pavement girl felt ridiculously isolated in her love for Malcolmus and the band. I've often wondered where my pavement people are, and I think I may just be Pavement's biggest fan within a pretty large radius. So long story short, it's been really great getting to turn into your podcast, and it's fun to get back to remembering that there are more people out there like me who still can't get enough of Pavement after all these years. I don't really have any unique takes other than to gush on about the band, so I'll just say I'm enjoying the deep dive and it's been making my commute much more enjoyable. I'd love to share a fun story nobody around here seems to appreciate. I've seen the band a few times since '94, and I'm happy to share that I finally got to meet Malcolmus about a year and a half ago after a Jix show. I was determined to talk to SM, and of course I was a little nervous as I was thinking about a possible chat. Well, turns out he was the nicest, most personable, down-to-earth guy ever. So, I was hanging out back after the show, leaning against the post at the venue. He walked out, and I continued to patiently and anxiously wait for him to sign some guy's set list or posters or whatnot. I had no idea what I was going to say if I got to him. No problem, because out of nowhere, he nods over at me. Hey, you were down front, right? Nice job. Ah! Notice by my indie rock god, life made. He proceeds to take a lot of time to talk to me. I warned him I was about to geek out and share old Pavement ticket stubs from mid-90s shows. He was so gracious. We laughed about memories of a couple of the shows and venues. He took a bunch of goofy photos with me. Yes, I have a couple framed on my desk. And he showed genuine interest as we chit-chatted about tons of topics from his Jix songs and music to where my sister and I went to college, to how long ago the 90s were, and how old we are. It felt like I had known him personally forever. I don't know where I heard this, but it really was just like hanging out with a regular guy who isn't so regular. Man, it was incredible. Hope you appreciate and can sense at least a little bit of my excited geekness. Feel free to use all, part, or none of this message as you see fit on the show. And I guess, keep it to my first name or just K. Congrats on the podcast, and thanks for all your efforts. Looking forward to hearing about your experience when you finally do get to meet him. Thanks so much, Kim. That was, God, that was fucking great. So cool that you got to meet him. So cool that he was cool back, and just overall cool. I hope someday we can do some sort of meetup for this show, whether it is, a Pavement tour or things work out for Primavera in 2021 or something like that. We need it. It would be nice to just get together with some like-minded people and tip some pints. Anyway, let's listen to the beauty that is Grounded. It's become a staple of the set list as indicated by our friend Bob in last week's episode. And certainly it is a staple of the canon of this band. This is Grounded on Meeting Malcolmus, the Pavement podcast.
got crystal ice picks, no gift for the gab. And in the parking lot is a sedan in body. He never complains when it's hot. He'd fold a swollen daughter in a sauna playing contract bridge. They're soaking up the fauna, doing blotters, I don't know which. Boys are dying on these streets. I know the medical world could knock you out. So sell the coins that you jade last Thursday. Hey, dine by candlelight and hold your savings tight. You never know when the bridge falls apart. He spoke of latent causes, sterile gauzes, and the bedside morale. He traipsed around the table, talking sentences so incomplete. Please, boys are dying on these streets.
I am now joined by Jordan and Parker from the Indie Bandwidth podcast. I discovered through Twitter a little more than a year ago. They were putting out episodes. They did one on Slanted and they did one on Watery. The one on Watery I really clung to, and it was great. And it still is great. And they're here to talk about Grounded. Welcome, guys. How's it going?
It's going good.
It's going well. Thanks, JD. Thanks a lot for having us on. We're super stoked to talk about this.
Oh, me too. This is a really good song, right?
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. I mean, this has been a standout song for me for Pavement since my first spin of this record way back in the day.
All right. Talk to us about that, because we know my story is that I missed the boat 95. So you were there in 95. What was it like?
Well, I actually remember walking into the music store. It was this one of my favorite CD stores on Castro Street down in San Francisco, and walking in, and I kind of had heard rumors that it was going to come out, but there it was, just right on the end of the row, a bunch of them laid out, and I just remember the thrill of thinking, oh, sweet, I cannot wait to go dig into this, and not knowing what to expect, right? We'd come off of Crooked Rain, which I adored, although even at that point, I think I sort of liked Slanted more. And I put it on and really liked the first few tracks, although the first track kind of threw me when I first started playing it. Like, what the hell is this going to be? And then when I got to Grounded, I had got the CD. I didn't have a vinyl player at that point, and I just remember hitting rewind and then rewind and then rewind on Grounded over and over because I could not believe how good that song was. So it was sort of instantly that I knew that it was going to be one of my favorite Pavement tracks.
Wow. Oh, that's so. Yeah, I wonder because I came to this CD very late. It was the last one I came to, in fact. But it's interesting because once I got there, you know. Parker, how about you in terms of your sort of experience with Pavement? Well, I'll talk about that generally, I suppose, first. And then if you want to get more specific into Grounded, that would be great.
All right. So, I mean, I've been listening, or rather hearing Pavement since I was really little. My dad has been putting it on forever. But I was probably around like 11 when he started getting me to listen to Malcolmus's solo stuff. I listened to Wig Out at Jagbags first, and that was like a good entry point into like indie rock. And I started listening to Pavement. I think I started with Crooked, then got really into Brighten the Corners for a while. And then he finally convinced me to listen to Wowie Zowie. And the album for a while seemed pretty similar to what I'd heard before, until it got to Grounded, which just completely blew my mind. It was something that I hadn't heard from Pavement, and hadn't heard, period.
Wow.
Yeah, and it became one of my favorite songs, and it still is my favorite song, period.
Yeah, your favorite song, like, of any artist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember trying to get you into Wowie Zowie, and sort of like, I really think you're going to dig it. And there's been this with some other albums too, and you're like, yeah, it's okay. And then seeing it click for you just made me so happy when I finally saw it click in for you. Yeah, for sure.
Oh man, there is so much I could get into. Parker, I know you play music. You play guitar now, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Is this something that you go to? Because it is sort of Guitar Hero-y. And I don't mean from the video game perspective. I just mean there is, when you see SM play this, oftentimes he plays the intro behind his head, and he gets right into the whole motif of Guitar Hero, with this song, knowing what he's got in his holster. Is this something that you cling on to as well as like somebody who, let me give you a bit of background. Sorry. When I was growing up, and your dad will, vouch for me here too, it was an era of guitar heroes. You know what I mean? There was Randy Rhoads, and there was, oh my gosh, Stephen, Jimmy Page, and Stephen Vai, and Yngwie Malmsteen, and all these names were thrown about that were these guitar heroes, and it's like rock and roll is sort of bereft of them at this point in the same ilk, and it's really cool to see SM sort of take up that guitar hero-y mantle every once in a while, because he really does shred.
Oh yeah, he does. I mean, he's incredible.
I mean, yeah, for sure. He's probably my favorite guitar player. One of my favorite musicians. He's a really incredible player, and he's inspired the way I approach music in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
And you've tried to play Grounded, right? But
I've tried to play. I haven't learned all of it. I've learned some of it, but it's not easy to figure out.
Yeah, there's no tabs for it out there, I don't think.
Well, there are, but not any good ones.
That's right.
So you're figuring it out by ear?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. So in terms of a beat on what this song is all about, do you guys have any sort of direction as to what it's about, like lyrically or conceptually?
Well, I mean, as you've found, I think many times in this podcast, certainly it's my impression listening to all your episodes, it is super hard to get a beat with Malcolmus, right, on what his songs are about.
Yeah, it's really
but there is something that I would say about this song. I think that, to me, it feels like one of the most earnest of his songs. And that's not just in the lyrics themselves, which, I think to a certain degree, they're not transparent, but there's this real sense of sort of anger at the petite bourgeoisie, and this, contrasted with this line of, boys dying on the streets. But it's his delivery, too, is so... It's just earnest in a way that I don't know exists on many other... It does exist elsewhere, but not on many Pavement tracks. And everything about it feels earnest to me. The guitar playing, the pace of it, the fact that he gives this song that intro, that kind of almost classic rock intro that he doesn't give to many other songs. It feels like, a testament to something, and of a whole nother... I won't say caliber, because it's not like it's necessarily better objectively than some of his other songs. It just feels other. And this probably means nothing, but it occurred to me when I was listening to this again recently in preparation for this interview, and I was looking at the whole discography. This song almost comes right at the fulcrum between what came before and what came after in terms of where it rests in the discography. And it really feels like that to me. It feels like a pivot point. It feels like something that all the other songs kind of rotate around. And it seems meaningful that it comes at this place in their career, at this place in his writing career.
That is far. That is really far out, because this will be episode number 60. And I think that there's about 125 of these things.
Yeah. Right.
In the bucket. So you're pretty much bang on.
Yeah. So that's kind of weird. It is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But again, it's just Malkmus, and in terms of what it really means, he paints such a beautiful canvas. You can use your imagination to paint all sorts of things on top of it. And I'm sure that there are lots of people who've come up with many interpretations of this, which is one of the reasons I love him so much. You can never nail down his songs. Never.
No, you can't. But I like the overall, sort of vibe that you've got, that earnest vibe, because it really does feel like something you can hang on to, and it grabs back, There's something about that. So I really like that vibe for sure.
Parker, what do you think of the lyrics for this song? I know you really like Malkmus's lyrics.
I don't know. The lyrics kind of, they have a quality more than just they fit perfectly into the production, the rhythm of them. This is one of the few Pavement songs that I think has perfect production. Like there's nothing I would change about it. I think just all of its elements just blend so well. They don't feel disparate. They all feel kind of like just one really tight work.
Yeah. There's a lot of care that went into this song, whether that was through chance, because it all came, I think they're famous for not sort of sitting and fiddling too much with the production.
That seems to be their...
Yeah, and so if it could be the case that things just landed really well, really early for Malkmus on this particular track. JD, maybe you know this. I've heard the kind of rumors, I don't even think they're rumors, that Malkmus actually played most of the instruments in the production of this album. Is that true? And that it was mostly live that the other players picked it up? Or is that just a rumor?
Yeah, I think that's just a rumor, because everything you hear about Wowie Zowie is, even most recently I interviewed Bob, and Bob was talking about just how comfortable they all felt at the Easley Studios.
Oh, good.
And he felt like it was really their only band record, like because they had done so much work on the road for Crooked Rain, because they were pretty much at their commercial apex. They were getting offers and they didn't turn anything down. They just played the shit out of everything that was thrown their way.
Right.
And so by the time 95 rolled around and they went into the studio, they were as close to a band as they ever really truly were, because usually at the end of a session, they would all go their separate ways and then wait for the tour and then do the tour and then all go their separate ways. And, but that wasn't the case in this instance. So he's always been known as somebody, SM has always been known as somebody who's very hands-on and really works the drummers. I'm interviewing Steve West tomorrow, so it'll be interesting to hear what he has to say about sort of working with him and the band in general. I'm really curious about that. So, but no, I had not specifically heard that rumor.
Well, I do hope it's a rumor because it really does feel like it feels like it does feel like a band. I mean, in a different way. It's not. I mean, I really like the last two albums, but they are. This is just my opinion. They're a bit overproduced to a certain degree. They lose some of the cracks that I love in Pavement.
Sure.
But this album, it's just there. All of that sort of messiness, that beautiful kind of sublime messiness, is there in full. So I love to think that the whole band was there sort of creating that energy. That's much rather how I'd like to think about this album than sort of a solo work with a live backup band.
Yeah, I hope so too. I know that's sort of the rap on Terror Twilight for sure. That it was Nigel Godrich and Stephen Malcolmus pretty much working together. But yeah. So I want you guys to talk a little bit about the show, about the podcast that you guys do. It's been a bit sporadic, but when you guys have a string of them together, it's great to see in my podcast feed. I like listening to it. I like this sort of the angle, but why don't you guys talk a little bit about what it is and what you hope to accomplish or what you are accomplishing with that show?
So, schedule wise, it's whenever. We're shooting for monthly right now. When we first started it, we were doing it bi-weekly. Then we took a big break and now we're back. But so whenever we do a show, we look at an album that we really, really enjoy and we go song by song analyzing it. Talking about what's great about it, what we love about it, what makes it stand out to us.
Yeah, I mean, we started the podcast because, as Parker sort of alluded to before, he started getting really into the music that I'd been kind of forcing him to listen to for years. But then he really found a deep passion for a lot of it. So I think our first episodes were all bands that I had brought to the table that he'd really fallen in love with. But now the tables are sort of flipping, and now he's bringing bands to the table that he's introducing me to, which I absolutely love. And I love to be able to find this new music. And I think probably like you, JD, like so many of my tastes got locked into my college years, right? I got ossified. So to have him, someone who's, I absolutely trust his musical tastes because he clearly loves some of the best bands of all time. To have him throwing bands back at me, I know I'm going to love them. So it's been a real joy. And I know it's podcast death to not have anything regular come out, but we're just doing it for us, right? This is like a dad-son podcast. Right. And so we're going to do it as regularly as we can because we know that's always better. But I'm not concerned with numbers. This could be on a selfish level, this is going to be something when I'm like 60, 70, I'm going to be so happy to be able to turn back and have these episodes to listen to. So,
yes. That should be what it's about because there's no, I mean, unless you're Joe Rogan or,
right.
Whoever, like there's nothing there.
Right. But we do plan on getting more regular now. I feel like, Parker entered freshman year of high school. That was really, it's rough for all of us that year when we entered high school. And so things have settled down a bit more now, and I think we're going to get a bit more of a regular rhythm.
Cool. Well, I look forward to checking those out. And where do we find the show?
Yeah, you can find it pretty much in any podcast app. So you've got it, iTunes, your Spotify, your Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, all sorts of places. So pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find it. You can find us on Twitter at Indie Bandwidth. You can talk to us that way. And
cool. I'll tweet it out too.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll tweet it out for sure.
And there'll definitely be more Pavement and Malcolmus on play at some point.
I want to hear the Wig Out at Jagbags one.
Yeah, I think we might be doing. Well, I won't say what we're going to do next because it always changes out from under us. But we think we have a Malcolmus one lined up next, and then we're going to go into some of the territories that Parker's been bringing to the table.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on today, guys.
Thank you.
It means a lot.
Thank you. We're huge fans of the podcast. I'm a huge fan. It's been so fun to listen to it and listen to every episode. I'm so stoked you're doing this. What a great companion to have alongside the Pavement discography. And it's a super thrill to come on and do it for Grounded for sure. So this was great for us. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's leave this interview by playing another version of Grounded. This is Grounded from the LA's Desert Origins CD, the reissue of Crooked Rain. And Enjoy it. Talk to you soon.
Bye, JD.
Bye.
Thanks so much, guys.
Doctor's leaving for the holiday season. Got crystallized pics, but no gift for the gab. And in the parking lot is the sedan he bought. He never complains when it's hot. The Los Bermuda enemies are waiting for the fall to come. The sunroof's made of plastic or elastic, I don't know which. Boys are dying on the street. I guess the medical world could knock you out. They sell the coins that you jade last Thursday. Dime by candlelight, you hold your savings tight. You never know when the bridge falls apart. You sold the swollen daughter to the sun on a Tucson ridge. Smoking marijuana, doing blotters, I don't know which. Boys are dying on these streets.
Meeting Malcolmus, a pavement podcast, is a weekly affair. Connect with JD at jd@meetingmalcolmus.com. Please support the pod by rating, reviewing, or sponsoring us at meetingmalcolmus.com. And hey, I'm social. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at Meeting Malcolmus.
New holiday deals just dropped at Lowe's. Get up to 30% off select major appliances, plus an additional $75 off for every $1,000 you spend on select kitchen major appliances from brands like Whirlpool, KitchenAid, Amana, and Maytag. And don't miss big savings on DeWalt. Save $80 on a DeWalt 20-volt max 2-tool combo kit. Was $229, now just $149. Lowe's knows deals. Offers valid 12/5 through 12/11. Cannot be combined with additional discounts. See Lowe's.com for details and qualifying items while supplies last.